Dear Hollywood, if you haven't already, watch Godzilla Minus One, get a pen and paper and take notes, because when it comes to monster films, this is how it's done. Every single time one of those American monster films comes out, be it Godzilla, King Kong, Pacific Rim, or whatever, it's always the exact same thing. Great spectacle, great CGI, great destruction that's entertaining to watch in that popcorn kind of way, but terrible dogshit human characters that I just could not care less about. Not the case with Godzilla Minus One. I spent 2 hours and 4 minutes in awe watching this film because I just didn't think it was possible to do a Godzilla film with human being characters that were interesting, compelling, and that I just completely gave a shit about. And what an amazing time and place to set a Japanese Godzilla film in Japan just after World War II. Tokyo has been devastated by the bombs. You have the main character, the kamikaze pilot who fled his duty. He didn't go through with the kamikazeing. He didn't sacrifice his life for the war and for his country. So he's carrying around that survivor's guilt, that PTSD from war, because he encounters Godzilla at the very beginning. He doesn't do anything to try and stop him, and it causes a lot of deaths in his camp, and all of his comrades get squashed by Godzilla. And then he comes back home and takes in the woman from the street who has a baby that's not even hers, and they start to grow this kind of surrogate family together. It is really compelling stuff, and at a point about 25-30 minutes into the film, I almost forgot I was watching a Godzilla film. I genuinely thought I was watching some Japanese war drama. Thus, when Godzilla re-emerges, you're like, oh shit, it is a Godzilla film, and it just surprises you all the more because you just haven't seen this amount of effort put into human stories in American monster films in the past decade at least. The last thing that I ever expected to do during a Godzilla film was tear up, which I did during this a couple of times. And by putting that much effort into the human characters and their stories, their characterization, their emotional arcs, and tying all of that directly to Godzilla and his destruction and devastation, it makes the Godzilla spectacle relevant and not empty noise. And that's just why this is probably the best monster film I've ever watched. And the Godzilla action, by the way, the destruction and devastation, it's some pretty epic stuff. When he is tearing through the city and just annihilating buildings and leaving nothing but destruction in his path, I got chills a few times because of how just awe-inspiring it was, especially when he uses the atomic breath. Oh my god, this Godzilla's atomic breath makes the American Godzilla's atomic breath look like a sneeze in comparison. When this Godzilla charges up his atomic breath and you see the things on his spine light up and it's just vroom, 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 and he fires that thing in the distance and you just see a mushroom cloud light up in the sky, chills everywhere. You know when I just said this might be the best monster film that I've ever seen? Scratch that. This is the best monster film I've ever seen.